Welcome to this video where I'll be taking you through some of the basic techniques for sketching in isometric. First thing you need to do is to get yourself a pencil. I'm using mechanical pencil because it always gives me a sharp edge on one of the sides. If you're not using a mechanical pencil, make sure you sharpen your pencil before you start. When you've got your page laid out, one piece of advice I'd give you is to think about the size your drawing or sketch needs to be. If you're just doing a quick concept sketch, don't make it the whole page, make it a small sketch. If you're doing a final design, you probably want it to go larger. So before we start, we're going to do the crating technique, which is where we create a box that is going to house the entire object. So the first thing we need to do is to establish the maximum dimensions for our object. So if we do a horizon line, and then we do a vertical line, now we want a 30-degree line across from here and there. If you're just sketching, it doesn't matter if these are 30 degrees or not. What matters is that you keep the lines parallel with each other. So when I come to put any more 30-degree lines on the right or the left, as long as they're parallel with each other, they will look accurate. And as far as possible, get these two angles to be the same, and then your drawing or sketch will look even more consistent. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to establish what distance is between the front edge of this face and the back edge of that face. I'm going to make it quite thin, so I'm going to put it there, where it's going to be long on this side and it's going to go over there. So this is going to be a cuboid, not a cube. You'll notice that I turn the page because I want to get the same line drawn 3 times roughly. So now I mark out the height, so I want height to be there. So I'm turning the page, so I've got this line here. Again, it's a sketch, it doesn't really matter if your work is perfectly dimensioned. What's important is the proportions. So I know that in my head I wanted this to be thin and that to be long, about 2 to 3 times as long. That's the sort of cuboid we've got. So here we've got the start of our sketch. If I want to now add some features on the inside of this, say I want to have the whole thing to be a semicircle, sort of a semicircular cylinder or prism, first thing I'd do is to mark out half a circle. Now if we're marking out a normal circle, what we would have is a square, connect the corners, connect the centres, mark 2/3 along from each, and then draw a circle. That's not a very good one, but it gives you the idea of the basic technique. So here all I need to do is to mark the centre, put a line up. Now notice that my construction lines are super faint. That's intentional because I don't want them showing through afterwards. 2/3 of the way up here is approximately there and there. So then all I need to do is to sketch in that shape. It's not perfect. If I want, I can go back and change it, but for this demonstration it will do. 30-degree line parallel to this line here to set the depth. I know that that's just below the top, so that's going to go up to there. And then this shape here, I want to replicate this shape there, keeping these as parallel as possible, given that I'm sketching it. Now I want to put a hole in this section here, so I'm going to mark out my vertical lines, my line parallel to this edge, this interior line that's effectively the foot of this piece into there. And you can see we're starting to build up this sketch. Now I want to put a circular section here with a small depression. So easiest thing to do is to mark what should hopefully be a square, connect the corners, now I want to set a depth in here which is just to that point there. So then I'm just going to follow those edges around, keeping them parallel as I can to set the depth of that hole. So you can see that we've got this part going all the way back in, creating a void here. This section is just a small depression, a small cylindrical hole, goes all the way in. Then we can start to apply the thick thin line technique, which says that on an edge where you cannot see both faces that make that edge, so this face under here is making this edge with this face, it would be a thicker line. On an edge where you can see both the faces that make that edge, it will be a thinner line. And you can adjust this as you wish. There is also part of this technique that says the closer the edge is to you, the thicker it would be, and the further away it is, the thinner it would be, thus creating a sense of depth in your drawing using just the thickness of the lines. If you were drawing something as complicated as a car engine or so on, you would notice that it's really useful to use that technique on the closer sections, making them thicker in order to give a sense of depth in what is just a two-dimensional image. But there we have it. Isometric sketch technique. Just use this where you have to. Once you get used to it, you can just sketch out circles and 30-degree lines and such things pretty easily. It's all just practice. Just keep practicing, keep your drawings and sketches small to start with whilst you're learning.